Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm using a different camera today, so hopefully my footage will be a little cleaner than the last video I did. Today I'm going to be working on adding some new lights to the front of my Jeep. So let me show you what I got. Alright, so in a recent video I installed this bumper, Red Wrap 4x4 bumper, and it's got these tabs up here to add some lights. And so I picked out one set, but decided they were way too big. I'm not going to use them. So I ended up getting these. I ordered these off of Amazon. What I like about them is they have this center amber that I'm going to wire into the headlights, so whenever I turn my headlights on, those will come on automatically. And then the actual light itself I'm going to wire to a switch. So I'll have to turn those on with a switch that'll be mounted on the A-pillar. Well, this is what I got. Let me show you what they look like. Pretty nice. They have black and silver, and I got the black one, of course, to go with everything else that I blacked out on the front of my Jeep. But this is what they look like, and they'll be mounted there on the front of the Jeep. So I don't know how far I'm going to get today. I've only got a couple hours till dark working after work, so it may take me a few days to finish this. But luckily, through the magic of editing and YouTube, you'll get to see it all in this video. So if that's something you're interested in seeing, stick around. You can also check out my last video that I did on wiring some reverse lights or auxiliary lights to the back of my Jeep, so whenever I put it in reverse, the lights come on. And those were built into the bumper that I bought down there. So if that's something you're interested in, check the link in the description and you can see that video. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. First thing I'm going to do is disconnect the negative battery cable so that I don't do any damage, short anything out. And then I'm going to move inside the Jeep. And I've got this switch pod that I installed from the A-pillar, and I did that quite a while ago. I have an old antique style horn that's not currently installed, but this switch would control it whenever it's a momentary switch, so whenever I'd hit it, it would honk that horn. I'm gonna be redoing that switch and the relay for it, upgrade it, because the wiring, I didn't really know what I was doing at the time when I installed it about 5 years ago, and I'd like to clean up the wiring on it. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull this off as the first thing I'm going to do, because my other switch for the new lights is going to be coming here also, and I want to try to use the same trigger wire or the same power wire that's coming to this switch to the second switch. And of course the wire leading from the switch will go two different wires, but I want to use the same power wire on multiple switches, so I don't have 4 different power wires coming up here. They're all low voltage enough that all this switch is doing is sending power to the relay to trigger the relay, so they're very, very low voltage, and I should be able to use the same power wire coming from the fuse panel for all switches that I might put here. I've got another set of lights that I'm going to be adding later. So for right now, I'm just going to have the horn and the one set of lights. I do want to put a switch here also for those lights on the back bumper. Right now, I've got them wired to come on when I put it in reverse, but I plan to also have a switch for them so I can turn them on anytime. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull this loose and try to remember how I wired those before and which power wire, because I think if I remember right, I used the same color wire on all of those. And I believe, oh, maybe I didn't. That's the relay for it. So maybe I've got the yellow wire going to that switch, and that would be nice. Makes sense, but it also, I'll have to remember how I wired that up and do some testing. But that's where I'm going to get started. I'm going to pull that switch pod off the A-pillar, and then I'll run power to the switch, and then I'll come out here and run power from here to the relay, and then from the relay to the lights. And then the lights should be fine just grounding them directly here, because this is, you know, connected to the bumper. The bumper's connected to the frame, so that should complete my ground. If not, I'll run a ground up here to the frame somewhere. And then once that's done, all I have to do is put a fuse in the fuse panel, connect the fuse, connect the line to the fuse, the power line to the fuse, and should be good to go. All right, here we go. Go ahead and disconnect the I don't know, at some point when I had a battery replaced, they didn't put, really, these should be here, and this should just be to tighten down the battery cable connector. But I guess somebody at some point when I got a new battery, when they installed it, I lost a nut there, so they just stuck it on there. So I'll get another nut later and move them, but for now I'm fine just to connect them there, move everything out of the way good so I don't accidentally connect it and short anything out. I do want to put this back on here temporarily so I don't lose it, and then when I'm ready to connect it back, it'll be there. So that's done. Now I'm going to move inside and pull that switch pod loose. Alright, so I got the A-pillar switch pod cover off. I'm going to have to knock out a couple more of these. One for the reverse lights, one for the front lights. Probably only going to do the front lights right now. And then you can see I got all my wiring there that was going to the switch. This wire is going up to a microphone for my stereo, the Bluetooth. And then if I pull this cover off right here, you can see all my wiring coming up from underneath. And it's going through you're probably not going to be able to see it, but there's right back behind the dash, there's a grommet in the firewall that comes out. Where's it at? Right down there. See the grommet coming through the firewall. So what I'm going to do is figure out which one of those wires is coming from the battery. And I'm going to connect that same line to both switches. And then the line coming out of that switch will come to where the horn was. I'm going to leave that alone. But the new switch, there'll be a line coming out that'll go to my new relay that I'm going to put in. So I'm going to set the camera down for a minute and figure out which one of these lines I believe it's this red one. I believe the white one is the one that was going to give power to the relay. Alright guys, so I went ahead and cut out the spots. I'm going to go ahead and put 4 switches in. I'm just only going to have 2 of them connected right now. Sorry I didn't get it filmed because cutting those out because GoPro overheated, shut off on me. But this is what I got. I went ahead and got a new momentary switch to replace the other one. It matches. So I'm going to put a switch here. Momentary switch there. Another switch there. And one more. And once I get them all wired up, that'll go back up there. So the momentary switch, the new one, came with all these wire jumpers already pre-wired, which is kind of nice. I think the other ones have some in the box too. So this will be pretty nice because I can just jump the switches and connect them to the one power wire coming in. Yeah, it does too. Those come have some too, so that'll make it easier. I don't have to cut all those and splice them all. I can just hook them all together. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and wire up 2 of the switches. Alright, so I got 2 different types of switches here. This first one is a momentary switch, so it's active whenever you hold it. This one's actually a 2-direction, so you could use it for a winch if you wanted, so you could go up and down on your winch. I'm just using it for one, for the horn. So I've got it wired, the power coming off the battery, and then on the other switch is the power to the battery. So the momentary switch, of course, I'll have to ground up here, and then on this one, both of these will go to ground, and then down here, these 2, you can connect them together, and they go out to, in this case, they'll go out to the horn. This is the outgoing one on here, so in this case it'll go to the relay for the new lights that I'm installing. So I need to hook up the ground. I'm going to try to ground them both together. Okay, so both of these are ground on this one. On this one it's just one ground. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect this one here in 2 spots, and then I'll connect this one there, so I have both of those grounds hooked up. And then this one later I can jump over to this other switch. In fact, I'll go ahead and just put it on the ground for that one. And then my original ground wire that I had coming in, I can connect to those. Original hot wire I had coming in can connect to those. And then my original out to accessory was the horn, which went to the relay to activate the relay to turn the horn on. I'll connect back here. Getting kind of tight in there. Maybe I should have hooked all these up before I put the switches in. Alright, so there's the accessory. It'll go out to my original horn wire. And then so now all I have to do is run a wire from here to the new relay for the new lights. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook all these back up. You got the powering both switches. This white one going out to the accessory horn, and the ground powering both switches. So I need to get one new wire going from the accessory on here to the new lights. I'm gonna go ahead and get some electrical tape and tape these up so they don't short out, and then I can put the new wire on there and put it back together. Alright guys, let's see if I can't run my wire through this grommet into the there's the wire through. Go ahead and pull my screwdriver back out. Give myself a little slack. Hopefully I can pull the screwdriver out without pulling the wire back out. There's my wire. I'm going to send it up right through here. Alright, so there's the wire for the new lights. And give myself a little bit more slack, and then I'll wire it up. Okay guys, so I got the wire run through. Go ahead and strip it. Add on a connector. Crimp it down. Well, that's not good. Alright, I'm going to get another connector in that one. Messed that one up. Okay. I think that yellow connector was wrong size for this wire size. So I'm going to use a blue one. Yeah, this is 16 to 14, and this is 14 gauge wire, so this will be the perfect size for this. I'm using 14 gauge wire because those lights are rated at 10 amp. So for 10 amps of power, you should use a 14 gauge wire. At least according to the wiring chart that I found online. So yeah, much better. And these are heat shrink connectors, so go ahead and shrink that down. And not going to make a real difference if it's watertight or not being inside the Jeep, but unless I get caught in the rain with the top down one day. So there's my connection for the new light. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. Get it to slide on there. Still a little hot. Alright, so that's there. Now all I got to do is tape up those old connections. I should probably redo all of those with heat shrink connections, but I'm just going to tape them up for now. Maybe another day when I have more time, I'll come back and redo. Good thing about taping these is if I do ever need to come back and disconnect them, I don't have to cut any wires. It just, you know, they're spade connectors. Where if I butt connected them with heat shrink and get ready to add some, it's the last of that roll of tape. I think I got another one. Hope I got another one. I got one last connection to tape up. Let's go see if I can find it. Alright, I found another roll. Not very much on it, but I think it's enough. Basically gonna do this connection and then tape up the end of that white one. For now, I think I'm running out of daylight, so I don't know if I'm gonna get the rest of it done tonight. You can see I've got both switches grounded, got the main power coming in from the battery, and then the out going to the what will be the horn when I put it back in, and the new out for the lights. So that is ready to put back in. So I'm going to go ahead and snap it back up here in place. So I'm not sure exactly where I want to be running this wire. I know I'm going to run it down here, kind of where this wiring loom is, and then from there somewhere behind the grill. I think what I might do is pull the grill out, and then where this is mounted to the grill behind one of these, because it runs all the way across, it's one solid piece. I may just connect the relay right behind that, and then I can just run my wires out to the lights. But I'm not going to have time to do all that right now, so I am just going to kind of run out some line. Make sure I'm going to have enough. Kind of following the path of where I think I'm going to go. That should be plenty. And then I'm going to cut it off. Cut it off there. Loop it over on itself for tonight. Tape it off. Shouldn't have any power to it unless I go in there and flip the switch. But, and then for tonight, I'm just gonna bunch it up. Temporarily zip tie it right back over here somewhere so it's out of the way until I get back to it tomorrow. Alright. I don't want to make it real tight, so I want to be able to easily get to it, cut it off later. But I just don't want the wire to be hanging down inside the motor or inside the engine bay. So that ought to be out of the way for there for tonight. Now I'm gonna put my negative battery cable back on. Alright, get that tightened back down. And then we can check to see if we have power to the switches. Alright, so if we did this right, should get power to the switches when I turn it on. And it looks like we do. So, momentary, so when you press it, it'll light up. So that'll be going to the horn. I didn't hook anything to the other side, so it lights up, but there's nothing going out, so it won't be controlling anything. But that'll be the horn, the antique style horn, once I put it back in. And then this one shows that it's on. That sends the power to the white line that I just put in. It'll be connected to the relay, and it'll trigger the relay to turn on the lights once I add it. So it looks like it's working like it's supposed to. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop for tonight. But like I said before, from the magic of YouTube and editing, the next thing you see in a couple minutes will be me finishing the install tomorrow. Alright, see you in a second. Okay guys, so it's the next day, and after thinking about it overnight, I think I'm going to put the relay, instead of putting it behind the grill like I had originally said, I think I'm going to put it back here. Just zip tie it onto this wire limb the way this one is. That way I can run power wire from here to the relay, run my white line from the switch that I ran last night over to here, and then the only wire I have coming up here will be the power from the relay to the lights, and then the lights to the ground. So I won't have as much wiring up here in the front doing it this way. And I think it'll keep it out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and start making connections, doing the wiring. I'm not going to worry about taking the battery cable off, because I'm not connecting anything directly to the battery. The only thing that's connected directly to the battery is my switch. As long as I don't turn the switch on, there's no power going to it. I'll connect everything to the external fuse panel over there, and until I put a fuse in that, there's not power going to any of it. So there's no reason to take the negative battery cable out. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So my switched power, I'm gonna run across here. I just added this wiring loom for those reverse lights, so I may put this wire in the same one, or I may run another wiring loom across here later. Right now I'm just trying to get it all connected, make sure it works, and then I'll clean up the wiring. So this switched power will come across. Cut it right about here. Alright, so here's my wiring connector for the relay, and see, it only fits in one way, so it'll make sure that all your pins are in, wires are connected to the correct pins. In this case, coming from the switch, I want to go to the white connector, which is pin 30, I believe. It's either 30 or 85. I was wrong. Pin 86. But I'm gonna go ahead and strip this. Strip this. Connect those with a butt connector and heat shrink tubing. Slide that in there. And go ahead and heat sheet tubing on there. This will help keep it waterproof. I got one that's big enough to fit over this connector. Yeah. Put this one on the other end. Press that one down. Crimp it down. Give it a little tug, make sure it's got a good connection. Run the heat shrink tubing over. You can kind of feel where your connector's at. Make sure you got an even space on either side. And you can heat this up and shrink it down until you see glue coming out the ends, and you'll know you have a nice watertight seal. You can use any number of methods to heat this. A lot of people will use a little mini torch or a heat gun. I found just a lighter works just fine. It might take a little longer. I'm sure you're not going to be able to see it, but there's a little glue coming out the end on both ends. I don't know, and it got a nice tight seal. Probably longer than I need, but it'll work. So now I got to do the power going in, which is to the blue, and then ground, and then the power going out. I'm not going to use the red one. If you're not sure, I got this sheet with those fuses, or with those relays. It shows me what each color does. So blue is positive coming from the battery, yellow is to the accessory, white's to the switch, black is to the ground, and then this red is a continuous positive when the switch, or when the relay's not active. So when the switch inside sends power here, it turns this one off and turns this one on. When the switch is turned off, it turns this one off and turns this one back on. I'm not going to be using the red one. I could have gotten by with a 4-pin relay for this, but I had these 5-pin relays already, so alright guys, the neighbor stopped talking to me, so I turned the camera off and I forgot to turn it back on. But I went ahead and add a wiring lug on the end of a small piece of red wire. I'm going to connect to here. It's around to the fuse panel. So you didn't miss much. Oh, almost did the wrong wire. Blue wire. That's power from the battery. Blue connector. This 14 gauge wire. And the blue's good for 14 to 16 gauge. Using 14 gauge because this is these amps or lights are rated at 10 amps. So according to the wiring diagram I found online, for 10 amps you need to use a minimum of 16 gauge. Well, I already had 14 gauge, so I'm just going to use that. I almost forgot. Alright. Going to ahead and do a similar one for the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and connect the relay ground, just the fuse panel, since it's right there. I'm still going to have to ground the light separately. These copper lugs are probably overkill for this, but I'm out of ring terminals and I have these, so I'm going to use them. A bit more. So guys, if you take the time to use this heat shrink and do the proper setup on your wiring should last you the lifetime of your vehicle, and you shouldn't have to worry about anything coming loose or corroding or bad connections. It's well worth the extra time. Might take a little longer to do your installs and get everything done, but it'll be worth it in the end when you don't have to rewire anything in a year or 2 or 6 months, or have to spend time chasing down a bad ground because you didn't make a good connection. Ooh. Almost forgot the heat shrink on that one. This is the only downside of using a lighter. Right as I go to do it, the wind picks up. I say the only downside. It's one of the downsides. The other one takes a little longer. Okay guys, so memory card filled up and stopped recording. I didn't realize it, so let me show you what you missed. So I've got my power, or my ground, and a power wire connected to the fuse panel on the relay. The switch is connected. Here I've got my yellow line that needs to go to the lights. So I've run a yellow line down, and now I'm going to connect the lights. I go ahead and mount the lights, connect them together, and then connect them to the yellow, run the ground from the lights down and connect it somewhere on the body or on the chassis. And then once I have those connections made, come back, got my yellow wire connected here, and then all I'll have left is to put a fuse in and test it. So that's what I'm doing now, is installing the lights, or mounting the lights. So I took those off on each side, loosen the top one. Oh. And then drop the brand new light on the ground and hopefully not break it. Don't do that. I'd be really upset if I just broke this light. That's what happens when you're trying to do stuff in a hurry in Texas in July when it's nearly 100 degrees outside at 7:15 at night. Get sweaty and your hands get slippery. So see, that enabled me to put I couldn't put it in that way. It was not enough room. By turning it back there, it enables me to get it in there. And then I can put it back down, put those screws back in, and then mount the light. I'll go ahead and put these on here, so I don't have to sit here and hold them. I'll put these back in. That's really frustrating that I just dropped that. I guess they'll eventually get weathered and worn and beat up anyway, but and the brand new lights all scratched up because I dropped them on the ground. In my luck, something inside of it broke and it's not going to work now. Lights are mounted. What I'd like to do is connect them together. So I don't have to run two different wires. But I don't know if I really want to cut this that short's connected back here. I'd like to put that down there like that. I think I'm going to go ahead and add some pieces onto these to extend them, and then run them a little farther. There's actually three wires here. I'm not really sure because the instructions don't say, but I'm assuming this is the regular power for the light, the ground, and this will be for the amber. So I'm really not sure. I need to connect them and test it to find out. The whole time I was doing that connection, there was no wind. As soon as I get done and ready to start the heat shrink, breeze picks up. I'm gonna have to get me a little butane torch that I can do this with. It won't matter if it's windy. Alright, so got those three connections made. I'm gonna go ahead and zip tie this line right there. What I'm going to do now is connect the red together, the black together, and the white together, and the yellow together using some spade bits or spade connectors, and then I'll put female spade connectors over here on this one, the ground wire, and then when I come back and add the amber, so that if I ever need to take these off or take the bumper off and remove them, I can just unplug them, the lights, not have to cut all the wiring. I'm not using heat shrink tubing on these because those connectors actually have, this is a heat shrink connector. As I hope my camera angle's okay. I would love to be moving the camera around, doing all kinds of fancy shots and everything, but kind of trying to hurry and get this video or these lights installed. I'm going out of town tomorrow, and I'd like to have them done before I go, and I'm just running out of time. So moving the camera around and doing all that stuff is too time consuming right now. So for the female end, I'm using blue because it's only one wire. The blue wouldn't fit on here because there's 2 wires, so I need to be able to fit 2 wires in there. So the yellow ones are a little bigger, that's why I use yellow there. But the other end, they'll connect together just fine. I gotta remember that I believe this is actually going to connect to the red, but with it being these spade bits like this, or spade connectors, you can just disconnect them and connect one to the red and one to the yellow and see which light comes on. Cool for a minute before I was trying to start to connect it together. In the meantime, and I'll come back, like I said, and put wiring loom on this wire. Right here. Enough. Get you a little closer. So what I'm trying to do is anywhere where there's a power going through a wire, I use a red connector or a red heat shrink, and anywhere where there's just a ground, I use the black. Unless I forget and accidentally put a red on a black, which I've done here. But for the most part, try to keep my wiring consistent so that in a year or 2 years or 5 years, when I go start trying to trace wires for something, I know what's hot and what's not. And that's also why I'm trying to be consistent with my power from the switches being a white wire, the power to the relay being red, and the power from the relay being yellow. That's why I sent a yellow line up to the front. I could have just done this one being another red, but almost missed on that one. Just barely got it over here. Alright. So that one I'm not using. I don't know if I have any tape left. I think I used all my tape last night and I didn't get any more today. Yep, no more tape. This should be fine. I haven't. Well, there's a little bit. I know what I'll do. I'll take a piece of this red heat shrink, fold the line over, that would keep it from touching anything. I'm not going to be using this wire. I don't even really need to heat it up. I'm just heating it up to keep it from coming off. These exposed wires are way back here and it's just barely. Alright, so that's that. Zip tie that up there. And again, I'll come back and clean all this wiring up. I'm just trying to get it done and get it working. When I get back from going out of town, I'll get some larger wiring loom and cover all that up. Put wiring loom here and on the switch and everywhere else. Alright, connect the grounds, make those spade connections, put a fuse in, and we'll be done. At least for this part. Power there. You can make a ground, crawl underneath the Jeep in front, see where a good hot spot to ground it'll be. I don't see a good spot, so I'm gonna have to drill a hole and get a bolt and spade connector, connect it down there somewhere later. So in the meantime, I'm just going to run the ground right down here the way I did the power wire. Zip tie these two together loosely. Guys, I hope you're enjoying this video. And if you are, do me a favor and go ahead and hit subscribe. And like the video, share it. Leave some comments down below. Nice ones though, be nice. And don't forget to ring that notification bell. I know this video might be a little boring, all the plain Jane camera angles. But I'll do my best to improve on future videos when I'm not trying to do something in a hurry. All right. So, I'm gonna quickly walk you through what I've done, in case you haven't been paying attention. I've got these two lights connected together here with spade bits or spade connectors. I believe the yellow is the amber lights, so I'm not going to worry about connecting right now because I'm going to tie those into the headlights later. The white lights, I believe, is the red, and if I'm backwards, all I have to do is switch this to there. And I've got my hot in the ground coming up here. The ground goes to the fuse panel. I've got the ground, the other ground going to the relay. I've got the hot wire going to the relay from the fuse panel, and then the yellow is the line going out to here, hot. And it's all switched, the relay switched by this white line going into the switch inside. So that should be everything hooked up and ready to go. All I got to do is put a fuse in there and see if they come on. So let's try it out and see what happens. I had to remember where I put the fuses. Again, like I said, those lights are rated at 10 amps. So I'm gonna put, if I have a 10 amp, I'm gonna put a 10 amp fuse in. Alright, so if I've done everything correctly, I get in there and start it up, turn that switch on, the light should come on. Let's see what happens. Success. All right, I'm gonna turn it off now. I want to swap that wire just to see what the amber ones look like. Nice. I like that. So the plan is to use a separate relay for the amber lights and wire those into the headlights, so when I turn the headlights on, or the driving lights or the running lights, those will come on, and then the white ones will just come on when I use the switch. But I'm gonna go ahead and switch them back for now. I know it's still daylight outside, but I'll give you an idea of how bright these lights are. Give them a little bit of tweaking, adjusting.